Well, welcome to another episode of the Sustainability Happy Hour broadcast. Shh. I am one of your co-hosts, Pat Keys, and this is my co-host,
Micah Bennett. Happy to be with you all. I miss seeing everyone's faces on campus, but that's why we're doing this. So I'm happy that we're getting together.
A bummer.
Yeah.
It's such a bummer that we don't get to see each other and everybody. So this is a little bit of a side note, but Mike and I both work for the School of Global Environmental Sustainability. And since everybody's had to go start working from home, the person who's responsible for sort of running our office brought a desk over to my house because we had to get an order of standing desks. And it was nuts to actually see kind of our head office guy, Jarvis. And I was like, whoa, haven't seen you in months, socially distanced, of course. But it's just so odd.
Did he dye his hair or something?
No, he was exactly the same. Jarvis, are you listening? I'm not sure you're listening right now, but you looked exactly the same. Quarantine has been great to you. Yeah, it's just such a nutty existence.
It is.
Do you have any fun facts today? You said you were going to start to have some fun facts.
Right. I am going to start to have some fun facts. Are
you going to start next time?
No. Well, yes. Well, this is I think it's more of a relatable fact, perhaps, than a fun fact.
Yeah, that's could be fun still.
Could be fun. And you have to laugh at it. I was recently uninvited to a wedding.
What?
And I don't think I'm unique in having that experience. I was going to go to the wedding. I was going to go to my friend's wedding.
Yeah.
And with COVID and everything, it was going to be this big wedding in October.
Yeah.
And so rather than canceling the wedding or postponing, she's choosing to scale it way down. And I totally understand.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
I think
that makes actually perfect sense.
I'm just happy that I'm not in her shoes. And I'm like, how are you going to tell everyone? Do you send uninvites? Is there going to be a whole new category of stationery?
There's a whole yeah, but it's all these card companies are going to have a whole new business opportunity here. I mean, It's sad. It sucks though. Don't get me, I shouldn't make light of it. But I've actually seen we got to change the date in the mail.
Oh, yeah.
People always get these save the date messages, and we actually got a change the date message. And I was like, that's, A, gutsy, but B, brilliant. That was a great idea to change the date,
Right.
And so now, I don't think they know when.
Right. Yeah.
But wow, okay. Uninvited.
We've been friends for a long time, and I am not taking it personally at all. But I just thought, wow, she's not the only one that needs to make these uncomfortable phone calls.
But it's not like you were uninvited for some hilarious there was some gaffe,
right?
Somewhere. It was a very exactly. It was a very sensible uninvitation.
I would never insult you, Miss Lilvis. I would never do it.
I have nothing that even approaches that, so I'm not even going to try.
Well, then we can dive right into news if you don't have anything fun to share.
I don't think I have anything fun to share. No, I've been the only fun thing, and this is not related to sustainability, is I've been documenting the mayhem at my house. I have two little boys, and so I've been starting to document the mayhem, but in Lego form. So I'll make little Lego scenes that sort of characterize the craziness that is trying to keep two little boys alive. And it usually involves a normal scene, which is what reality is. You have that a little normal scene, and then all of a sudden something shatters the normalcy. The 5-year-old starts spraying the 2-year-old with full blast with the hose, or everybody decides to knock over their drinks at the same time at the breakfast table. Exciting stuff like that. So anyway,
very exciting. Very exciting.
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have a 5-year-old. I don't know.
That's right.
Exciting. Yeah. All right, let's get into some news.
News time.
I've got 3 news articles here that caught my attention this week. Now, this one is from July 6th. It's an ABC News article.
Okay.
Headline is Judge Orders Dakota Access Pipeline Shut Down Pending Review. So are you familiar with the Dakota Access Pipeline and its history at all?
I'm a little familiar, but
yeah. So
why don't you drop some knowledge?
It's been in the works for a long time, since at least 2016. And it's been quite controversial because it is going through this Standing Rock Sioux Tribe land.
Okay.
And so my understanding from this article is that the pipe was permitted and was approved to start building. And now later, District Judge James Boasberg in Washington, D.C. Has temporarily halted operation of the pipeline. It's already been pumping oil to do further review, saying that while they largely complied with environmental law when permitting the pipeline, he's ordering more review because they did not adequately consider how an oil spill under the Missouri River might affect the Standing Rock Sioux's fishing and hunting rights, or if it would disproportionately affect the tribal community. And so this comes.
This is the route. Actually, I just looked this up. So this is the route that the pipeline takes. It crosses, 4 different states. It's a huge project.
Yeah. And so, it's been a huge project. It's been a big piece in the news for a long time. And the fact that it's been halted temporarily is kind of a big deal because it, is a big, could be considered a big win for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the people that were protesting against it. But then, of course, there are the economic impacts on the other side that other people are upset about. And so in April, this judge had said he would review, it was essentially like he would review whether or not they needed to have more review. And so now he's come to the conclusion that there does need to be more review of this pipeline, like environmental, to make sure it's meeting these standards and isn't going to spill or break or cause harm. And while that is happening, it has to shut down. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Fossil fuels and all that stuff are definitely have a lot of impact in the realm of sustainability. So and
any change in the development of or exploitation of fossil fuels does have an impact on sort of the achievability of certain carbon-related targets. So that is definitely an interesting. It's in some ways it's a little bit unexpected, just given how successful that pipeline has been. So that's definitely something to stay in the loop on. I just pulled up the next article, and this one is about. This is the extreme temperatures that have been noted in the Arctic region over the last decade, but especially so this summer. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit more, but because you pulled up the article, but.
So basically there have been heat waves happening in the Arctic. This article from the Washington Post is saying that a northeastern Siberian town is likely to have set a record for the highest temperature documented in the Arctic Circle, with a reading of 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit in a town called, I'm going to pronounce it poorly, Verkhovnik.
Verkhoyansk.
Yes.
I was confident. I tried to deliver a confident name.
You just have to be confident.
That's
and this is, like you said, like this has been a trend for years past, but the fact that it's potentially reaching this record-breaking mark is just really quite remarkable. When people think of Siberia, they don't generally think of 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures.
No, not at all. Not at all. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons this is so problematic is that as the temperatures in the Arctic climb, the sea ice goes away. And there's always sea ice floating around in the Arctic region, or there has been for as long as humans have been around. And so that helps to reflect more heat energy back into space, more or less. So that it's not getting trapped and it's not getting absorbed by the planet. But as soon as that water melts, that sea ice melts, it reveals dark ocean water, which absorbs a whole heck of a lot more heat. And so there's this positive feedback that we have to be aware about. And we're actually going to talk a bit more about this next week with our guest next week on But this is something that is changing rapidly, and in some cases much more quickly than a lot of scientists expected. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now we should probably try and see if our guest is here. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So let's see if I can switch this. So today our guest is going to be Dr. Kelly Ramirez. And Kelly, are you ready to go? Thumbs up. Ready? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. The whole thing is going to break. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Hey, Kelly's here.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome.
how's it going?
Thank you for having me today. This is exciting. A nice way to end the week.
And we can say cheers to TGIF.
Cheers to TGIF.
Cheers.
Made it through another week.
What's it like where you're at right now?
Well, I'm actually not that far away from you right now.
Huh.
I'm down in Louisville, Colorado. El Paso was 107 degrees, and I decided just didn't need to be there. So I have friends here that I'm switching my quarantine pod from El Paso to Colorado.
I like it.
I put the 2 dogs and my cat in my van, and we drove up last Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long of a drive was that?
It's under 10 hours. Well, I stopped to nap. So, but
as you should.
Yeah.
That's a prudent decision.
Yeah, it was great.
You have AC, I hope, in your van?
I do, yeah. It wasn't, I left at 4 a.m. That's why I stopped to nap, so I could miss the heat. It ended up, when I left El Paso, the cool temperature at 4 a.m. was 79 degrees. So Colorado is just amazing for me.
You know, it's a dry heat, so.
And it's a dry heat, right?
Heat. I went from one hot oven to a slightly less hot oven. Yeah.
I bet it probably, does it cool off more here at night than it does there? Yeah. That's one thing I'm really grateful for, is that I can reliably get some cool temperatures, open up the house, everything, and things cool down quite a bit.
Yeah, no, not down there.
Well, before we get too far into this, we should probably be like, hey, who are you?
Hi.
Welcome to our Friday broadcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I can introduce myself. I'm a, who am I? That's such a loaded question sometimes.
It is. You can choose. You can choose. We're not going to judge.
To?
We're not going to judge what you say. You can say whatever you want.
I'm a microbial ecologist. I currently live in El Paso. I just started an assistant professorship there at UTEP in January. So I'm pretty excited to have that tenure track position. I know the CSU crew from my first postdoc in 2012. I moved up to Fort Collins and worked with Diana Wall, and was a SoGES employee, and was what are the fellows called?
Sustainability Leadership Fellow.
Sustainability Fellow, right? Yeah. So, and I worked with Diana, actually, even though I left in 2014, I worked on soil biodiversity with Diana since then, and still work with her. I just called her last week to talk about soil biodiversity. I spent in between Colorado and El Paso. I lived in Europe, in the Netherlands, doing a postdoc there, working also on soil biodiversity. So I've been around the world for soils because they're amazing.
Where were you in the Netherlands?
My work was in Wageningen. There's a couple of G's in there.
That was a solid pronunciation, by the way.
Oh yeah, my Nederlands is heel goed.
There we go.
It's like an hour and a half train ride, kind of away from Amsterdam, east.
Yeah.
Really close to the German border. I didn't live there. It didn't have a climbing gym, but it was a great place to work.
And now you're in El Paso.
Yep.
Well, now she's in
That's
Colorado.
Great. Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. And yeah.
I'm remote working from Colorado right now. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So you said you're a microbial soil ecologist.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what that is exactly?
Yeah. So I care about the organisms that live in the soil, specifically the microbial ones, bacteria, fungi, archaea. And my main research is, one, how are they distributed across soils, across regions, across continents, and ultimately the world. And some of my studies have been global sampling. And just like we care about where plants are, why plants are in specific ecosystems, we think of the same way, have the similar questions for microbes in the soil. What's extra important when I think about microbes, or the questions that I ask, are how they're connected to the plants above ground. Are there correlations or relationships between the plants that are growing and the microbes that they grow with? And then how do they change and respond to climate change? And because if plants are changing, then below ground is likely changing as well. And so those are the kind of the main different questions I ask, from those connections to plants to climate change, and then also how they control ecosystem nutrient cycles like nitrogen and carbon.
So there's this big effort to try and monitor a lot of global change, like how, whether it be like forest cover change or changes in how humans exert pressure on the landscape. There's all sorts of efforts to study that, like from space, for example, using things called remote sensing. So, which I'm sure you know about. But what can you do with those kinds of things, like satellite data, those sorts of methods of observation? Can you do anything with that, but for soil biodiversity?
That's a great question. I think some people are working on that now. Like, remote sensing is awesome, and like these big overviews, like pictures, they can be informative at large scales, especially if you have, maybe you say you take like a pristine forest, what information can we get from that with the remote sensing versus like a pasture land or agricultural land that's nearby, right? And then you do comparisons, and then you can make predictions. If we turn all of this pristine forest into agricultural land, this is what it means for whatever, if you're studying water or carbon, etc. This is a question that I've been thinking about, why I link above and below ground, because at the pot level, when I look at a plant, we can find some connections between the plant and the microbes. But as we go to the community level, like even a few meters by few meters plot, that changes, the view that we're getting changes. And then when you go even bigger, it changes again. So that's like, your question is really great, because that's the direction that scientists want to go, is like, how can we use one cool satellite picture to infer a lot of information? And I think our challenge now is we actually have to first know more about how on the small scale things are working together, or the smaller scale, before we can make too many inferences. We can get good, like maybe big measurements of carbon, for example, but it doesn't tell you what's actually going on mechanistically or help you predict it later on.
Yeah, if you had to kind of compare like the state of knowledge about kind of biodiversity in the soils to, say, the state of knowledge about biodiversity, say, in the treetops or something like that, how would you say that they're, ahead or behind, and not in like a value statement way, like you guys should be working harder, but more like it's harder to dig around in the soil, and a lot of the stuff that lives there is tiny. Right. And so it's not like looking for monkeys. It's like looking for monkeys the size of a grain of sand. Yeah. So I will, I guess, preface this by, every biodiversity scientist thinks that their organism group that they study is the hardest to study. So it's pretty, if I say like, oh, whatever, we know a lot about birds, like ornithologists will be like, but there are so many birds we don't know about, which is totally but we
true.
know a lot about birds. I'm gonna go ahead and tick off a lot of birders here.
Yeah. So
we can close the book on that one.
I won't say that. You said it, Pat. I'm not going to say that. I like the birds.
I know. I'm just kidding. Birders. Birders, don't stop watching.
We like to joke. We like to joke here.
I think so. Yeah, biodiversity is pretty amazing, because there's always something we can discover about it. Even, let's say, if we had all of the list of birds, we wouldn't know all the information about the birds. For the microbes, you kind of hinted at, they're really small. Most microbes, estimated 90 to 95%, can't be cultured easily in the lab. So we're relying on DNA methods, and our DNA methods are pretty crude still, that I imagine in the next 10, 20 years, they're going to be better, and we'll be able to better characterize entire genomes of microbes. Microbes are also tricky because they share their DNA with each other. So maybe they're not always their functions that we're looking at. Maybe they have a lot of redundancy because they can share those genes, or some of them don't share the really special genes, and those are a lot harder to find and characterize. Yeah, so there are a lot of questions for microbes. A lot of our knowledge and like if we had instead of our bird book where we're going out birding, if we had a book for microbes, it would be really incomplete. And there would be like a lot of debate about how to even create that and what information you should share.
And even like you'd have to have like the mobile little microscope, right? Like you'd have to have something that you could kind of, like binoculars are easy to carry around.
Exactly.
Do they make mobile microscopes?
They do.
Glasses?
Yeah. And like people have thought about like how can you use a nanopore in the field, which just like is taking a cell essentially and like creating that DNA information in the field pretty quickly. But for a soil community, everything is there. So how do you like discern what you're picking out? Unless you like find a really great fungal mold, you probably have a lot, like thousands of organisms in your sample.
That's just, I just like that clip that if you find a really great fungal mold, that's just like, it's perfect. I'm always on the lookout for like a great fungal mold. I'm walking around like, I wonder if I'm going to find a great fungal mold today.
Who isn't staring at the ground always when they're walking? Because that's where the good stuff is.
Okay, so before we want to, make sure we cover all the topics today. But one of the things we wanted to also talk about is you do a lot more work beyond thinking about global soil biodiversity. You're involved in lots of other groups. And one of the really fantastic groups you're involved with is 500 Women Scientists. Do you think you could just kind of briefly introduce our audience to what that is and maybe talk about that journey a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So 500 Women Scientists is my nonprofit organization. I started with Jane Zelikova, who actually also has ties to Fort Collins. She's in Colorado as well. And I know her from CU Boulder. We started this organization in 2016, right after the presidential election, because we recognized that there were these really significant problems going on, not just in America, around the world. Whether that be racism or anti-immigration and even anti-science, where even though people trust scientists, that's like, it's known that people trust scientists, there was like this disconnect between listening to what scientists had to say about what's going on in the world. And we wanted to make a difference for our communities and for the US. And we thought, well, what better way to start than looking at scientists at our own community, scientists are our community, and say, how can we make science more open, inclusive, and accessible to everyone? How can we make it so it's not this elitist white tower situation, that all people have access to science, whether they just want to learn about it or they want to join the scientific institution? And that's what our group sort of started with. And we realized we are a women-led group. We slowly grew our leadership team from 5 to 10, and now we have about 15 people on our leadership team from all over the world, actually, and contributing to these ideas, not only to make science open, inclusive, and accessible, but to actively fight racism, the patriarchy, and oppressive social norms. And that last part of our mission, we actually added this last November at our leadership meeting. We realized it wasn't enough to say we want science to be this way. We had to address what the challenges were holding science back to be more open and inclusive and accessible.
Absolutely.
And so, that's what our whole group is based on. We have a lot of projects. We have over 25,000 subscribers. Globally, we have over 400 local chapters, which we call pods. So if you look up on our website, you can join a pod anywhere around the world or start your own. And our network can take our message anywhere and tailor it, because different countries, different regions have different challenges. Not everything is the same, right?
Can you kind of briefly touch on that? So what are some of you could talk about the challenges that we have here in the US, and I'm sure our millions of viewers will have maybe a subset of those millions are here in the United States.
Yeah, for sure.
But trillions, I can't remember. But then in the other parts of the world, I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about what some of those other challenges might actually look like that we don't really appreciate much at all.
Yeah. Right. So, and actually we started with gender bias in our group very briefly, and then quickly moved into, it's not just gender bias in America. There are racial inequities. There are biases against the LGBTQ community, even biases towards immigrants, where in science, immigration and exchanging of knowledge and ideas is super critical to the success of science. In other countries, perhaps, maybe racism is definitely a particular challenge to America. It is in other countries, but maybe that's not the most major thing. Maybe just women being treated seriously as a scientist. Their gender inequity is really serious in some places. And even women just being able to gather together and be leaders in science can be a challenge, right?
Right.
So that's one example. Or perhaps it's more of an environmental problem. Maybe scientists aren't being taken seriously in a place, or there's an environmental problem in that country. And it's important to share that information, and science communication is really important. And so part of it is we try to create a platform and elevate women's voices to be leaders in their community and give them resources or support, or just that platform to amplify their voices.
Can you tell me a little bit where the name 500 Women Scientists came from?
Yeah, we started with a pledge. You can still find our pledge, which feels a little old now, but we worked hard on it, and we started with a pledge, and we were just going to say, we're going to try to do these things in our community. We'll get 500 women scientists to sign our pledge. And within the day, 500 had signed. By the weekend, 5,000 had signed. By the end of it was this exponential growth. We stopped counting after 20,000. We were just I think that's not the point anymore. Something bigger needs to happen besides just this pledge. Yeah.
I think I remember when Diana sent that around, because she sent it around. She said, we're trying to get, 500, 500 signatures. And then it was an email the next day saying, we blew past the goal or something like that.
Yeah.
That's just fantastic.
Yeah, Diana's been a great supporter of us.
So we got a question from our viewership. This is from Monica. Hi, Kelly. Can you talk a little bit about how your research and 500 Women Scientists led your transition to working with the FAO?
Yeah.
How did that take place? We've got some insider knowledge, just some background. Monica is a current postdoc at the School of Global Environmental Sustainability, working with Diana Wall and leading the Global Soil Biodiversity Initiative.
Yeah, Monica, thanks for your question. And I think, that's because not all scientists maybe want to go down the academic path. And definitely that was why I applied to work with Diana for the GSBI, because I wanted to apply the science more. How can I take this research that I'm doing, but actually make an impact? Because sometimes as a scientist, you're well, this is a cool result, but doesn't matter who's going to actually implement this. And that's what part of what the GSBI was doing, is bringing people together with all their research. We supported work on the Global Soil Biodiversity Atlas first. And that's this beautiful book that showcases biodiversity and their functions and their services for society, that the EU Joint Research Commission put together. So I've been in that loop, kind of at this policy science interface, and working with the GSBI even after I left, and keeping an eye on what they were doing. And then what year are we in? 2018, November. Yeah. I went to Egypt to present on behalf of the GSBI about the role of soil biodiversity for sustainability. And at that time, they pretty much the FAO with the GSBI convinced the UN Convention of Biological Diversity that we need an assessment or a report about soil biodiversity. We need to elevate it to the same level that mammals and birds and plants are on, because it's not included explicitly, and that's a big deal in policy if things aren't included explicitly.
But let's say I'm a skeptical person about soil biodiversity, and I'm saying, yeah, but birds are awesome, but how important?
It's just
dirt, right? So how important could it be? Can you maybe convince the skeptical? Again, the skeptical birders. I'm just going to pick on birders all episode.
I know soil biodiversity is supporting the plant life right? Like you can't have plant life. You could have very limited plant life without soil biodiversity. It's supporting plant life. It's supporting carbon cycling. It's supporting the food that we grow on. And this is sort of like the living soil has always sort of been like, well, yeah, it's there. But like there are billions or trillions of organisms in the soil, right? Like we don't need to look at the stars to look for something new. We can look down in the soil and find these really amazing creatures that can like, right, DNA Taq polymerase is from a microbe. Microbes can like fraction their DNA in UV light and then put themselves back together. So they have these like microbial technologies that could be of use to society. And even if they don't have that, they're supporting the plants that we rely on for food, right? And cycling water. It's like an obvious thing that was sort of like, yeah, it's there. And we wanted to say, well, let's explicitly talk about it and show this. And so in the end was invited to be the managing editor with another woman at the FAO for this report. And we brought more than 100 scientists globally together to write this. And that will be published this fall.
Oh,
wow.
man.
That sounds like a very big undertaking.
Yeah. I'm just like shuddering at how complicated that probably was.
I'm like really good at cat wrangling.
That's actually, I heard that's actually going to be in the next Olympics.
It should be.
That's going to be.
I only have
small
one cat
lassos,
and 2 dogs, but it feels like a lot. So I can do it. I can manage. I try. But it is, I think like working with organizations that are on that science policy cusp is really nice for scientists to think about as an option. And even maybe if that's the USDA or USGS in America, but then there are other like, even like the CBD or the IP, like the Intergovernmental Panel on Ecosystem Services, biodiversity, right? IPBES, that horrible name.
You got it.
Right, like they do these reports, and like so scientists, it's valuable to have people who understand the science and understand that translation of that science, and producing these reports is important for work to get done.
Can you tell me how, because you were co-author on another paper with Elizabeth Bach that came out recently, and Diana and Tandra Fraser. And can you just tell me a little bit about that paper and its sort of how it fits into this larger picture? Yeah,
I mean, like it's sort of all the same thing of our, like the GSBI and this scientists really like pushing that soil biodiversity is necessary for sustainability. And the more that you lay it out, the more that it's clear that it's needed, the more focus that it will bring to it, and money will come for the research, and we can get more interaction between scientists and farmers or scientists and policymakers rather than it being annoyed. Thanks, Craig. That's a good one.
Getting nerdy.
And so, so Elizabeth, the paper that Elizabeth Bach led is, I think, a great example of, she worked really hard to find really specific examples that support like all of these sustainability points. So the UN sustainability goals. So we went through it that way. And like for water, like clean water and water cycling, she found specific research examples that show it's necessary, and then puts it all together in one review.
Pat, would you mind, do you have the link? Would you mind pulling that up? I kind of want to, it should be in our Google Sheet tab.
Let's see. Under pressure.
There are just some really good graphics in that paper. And I kind of wanted to talk about that from like a science communication perspective, kind of tying in this SLF program to all of it. And like you had said, talking about, these very concrete research examples and how you can kind of communicate that to both experts in the field and also the general public. If you can't find it either, that's fine too, Pat.
Here, I'm gonna just
we got it
really quickly.
We got it right here. Soil biodiversity integrates solutions for a sustainable future.
Yeah, that's us.
Oops.
There's a lot going on.
There we go.
Should I answer? Hold on. I'll answer Ryan's question really quickly. Is there a typical a way that a homeowner can improve soil biodiversity for overall health of their soil, for lawns or gardens, etc. I would say usually organic matter is like missing from normal backyards. That's like the main thing. So compost or manure, especially like in a garden, if it's on your lawn, maybe you don't want to throw compost down and you just need more water. But that's like the main thing that I think that's missing from probably most homes. Sometimes it's nitrogen, but that'll come with composting. And then I guess in Colorado, water is the other thing that's missing.
Yes, that can be kind of important, especially when it's 100 degrees outside.
Mm-hmm.
I'm literally sweating inside my house right now. I don't know if you can see it on my face.
Just like this. We need like the towel.
So if taking into account soil biodiversity and trying to communicate this to either skeptics or just people that don't even think about it, what is like one key thing you would tell them?
Oh, I think my main thing, one, is that there is, the soil biodiversity is massive. We have yet to discover all of it, and it could potentially hold secrets to helping us with disease, food shortages, and technology, right? Microbes have these amazing things, these technologies, like microbial functions that we have harnessed in the past, antibiotics, for example, right? Like antibiotics, microbes in the soil are using antibiotics all the time to fight each other. And there are some really cool projects out there to look for new antibiotics, because we are becoming, like, there are microbes that are resistant to antibiotics, so we need new ones. So we can go into the soil and look for new ones that potentially would work in medicine, right? So that, for me, that's what I focus on. I can show you my tattoo. I also like to talk about everything is connected. So from the ground with the microbes to the roots, to the ecosystem, to the solar system, right? And like big things and small things are not that hard. I'm above a nerd, so soil tattoo nerd. But like,
did you design that?
Awesome.
Did you design that?
I had this idea, and I sent my tattoo artist 4 pictures and said, "Can we layer this?" And he was brilliant. Yeah, he's in Berlin though, so if you want him, he's too far away right now.
Did that one hurt? That looks like it might have hurt.
Yeah, some of it did. It was okay though. It was worth it.
We have a comment from another former GSBI director, Elizabeth Bach. Loving this. Paper. Former SoGES staff Kristen Pintaro gets all the credit for these figures. That's that you had up there. We're right here. These cool figures in this paper, which I think, is it open access? Yeah, it's open access. Mm-hmm. So anybody can slide over here and grab this.
I use that all the time, and I think that sums up. I mean, that sums up both soil biodiversity and ecosystem services. Like, everything is connected. If we don't take care of one sector, the other sectors will suffer. And if we don't take care of soil biodiversity, the ecosystems and other biodiversity will suffer, and society will suffer. So everything is connected. I do love this puzzle piece image.
Yeah, those are cool. Mm-hmm. I don't like that tick though. That tick was creepy looking.
They're very important.
It's a mite. It's a mite. It's not a tick, I don't think.
Okay.
So
the scale was off for me. Is there anything that we didn't really touch on that you're like, man, I can't believe they didn't talk about this, or they didn't ask about this?
Rare opportunity. Millions of viewers here.
Millions.
Do you have a viewer count? How many people showed up?
I do. I'm not going to say what the viewer count is, but I am going to say that it's not millions.
Okay.
Could be more,
It could be more. I'm
going to circle back around to 500 women scientists, because I think we're in a moment right now where people are excited to enact change in their communities. Whether it's specifically focused on Black Lives Matter and out in the street marching, or at your university. And I think I'll just put a plug for us. We've put together a lot of resources, and we're going to continue to do that. There is, if people who are watching from Fort Collins, I think that would be most of the audience. But there's a pod in Fort Collins. So if you all have ideas or want to work with them on a project, they're fabulous. And so they do great work up there. Ticks or mites, says Monica.
Wait, really? But they're
Monica is
huge.
dropping knowledge here.
They're a giant mite. Poor Micah. All mites now are compromised.
Oh dear.
Okay, so
Yeah, so just I'll just say, if you want to enact change, like reach out to our group, check out our website. We have lots of cool programs. And if you identify as a woman in science, sign up for Request a Woman Scientist. Request a Woman in STEM. It's real. We just relaunched that platform.
Cool.
That's great. And so before we wrap up, though, one of the things we've been asking our guests is if you could share one thing. It doesn't have to be related to sustainability if you don't want. It can just be anything. Like what's like one positive thing or something that's happened during this ridiculous, crazy lockdown, quarantine, everything is different situation that kind of maybe gives you hope, or it's happy or something like that. What's like a kind of like a bright spot for you?
Yeah, I think there are some bright spots. I'm gonna do this really quick because there's a package that I have to get. Hold on. Or is this the front door? Hello, are you by package? The FedEx.
This is live.
Oh, hold on. Let me call you back. Okay, that wasn't FedEx. It was an important FedEx package that I'm in charge of.
No doubt. Even if it was just like your Blu-ray that you had to get, that's still important.
I'm very, this is the only task that I have today, is like to take care of the package. I think that there has been a lot of hope lately in some sectors. It has been a roller coaster for sure, and ups and downs. I am hopeful that more people than I thought want to examine their own personal biases and their own community's biases, and that it's not just in America, and that we're seeing that globally. And I think that we are seeing, I get all of a sudden, I get pessimistic. I'm like, how long will it last? And this work is exhausting. So I'll say that for anyone who has started this journey, if you just are new to it, or maybe you've been working on it a long time, like, it is exhausting. And that's why we take breaks and, take naps and talk to friends about it and have therapy. But I'm hopeful that more people are open and willing to think about it, or even like just learn some of the words that they didn't know before, like intersectionality and anti-racism. And that makes me hopeful, because now we have new words to use. This work is really slow. No one ever said it will be fast. So it's nice to see, like, we get a little bump before we go back to that really slow looking progress.
Absolutely. And sometimes it doesn't have, like, it's not a linear process, right? So you might actually have like an acceleration or like a big burst of progress or understanding or expansion of kind of your sphere of empathy and compassion, and that can change. And then maybe it's a little bit slower again, but because you changed, that's helped. So that's cool. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Well, with that, I just want to say thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us today, from Colorado, no less.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Pat and Micah.
Really
good
fun
job.
conversation.
This is cool.
Okay. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah.
Go get your package.
Bye.
Okay. It's just us.
Just
and
us
I should
our
say,
millions of viewers.
And our millions of viewers. And actually, we've got Ryan here. The movie Bird's about to happen at Pat's house. I got to cool it down on that hating on the birders. I should say, like, I am a birder. I've been a birder for long over a decade. And so is it allowed for me to kind of poke fun at? I don't know. I have birds of paradise on my shirt, for Pete's sake. Look at that.
They're very serious people.
Not really birds. It's plants. Okay, so what are we gonna wrap up with today? What do we got?
I've got a few SoGES announcements for all of you. The first is that we want to give a warm welcome to all of our Global Challenges research teams and our resident fellows that have just officially started this month. We're really excited to be working with all these groups and individuals. They're working on exploratory and interesting sustainability projects. And if you want to learn more about them, you can go to sustainability.colostate.edu/research. And then, yes,
we're going there right now.
This is our website. Look at that.
Buckle up, everybody.
Buckle
research.
up. Research. Global Challenge Research Teams.
This is a test, actually. This is a live test.
Ryan, are you watching? Is our webmaster watching?
Right. He is, I think. And let's see, what do we got going on here? Look at this, 2020 to 2022 Global Challenge Research Teams. Actually, this bears mentioning. The new cohort, we're trying something new at SoGES, where the new cohort of GCRTs are going to have 2 years to actually conduct their project, which we've never done before. It's usually just been this one year project. So these are the 3 projects we've got right here. And we don't have the resident fellows. Resident fellows are on a separate tab right there. Yep. You can see that. Uh-oh, look at that. Oh, this is the whole research page.
I think it's because you clicked on you didn't actually click on the tab.
I didn't click on the tab.
Come on.
I've never used a website before.
Have you ever used a website?
I've never used a website.
So there
and these are our 2 resident fellows, Ed Hall and Johnny Plastini. And a cool thing about the resident fellows are that we've got somebody who's going to be working on kind of ecosystem science, aquaculture, kind of core ecosystem science type work. And then Johnny Plastini's he's an artist. And so he's going to explore some printmaking and looking at how climate change has impacted a variety of different plants, and then do some printmaking related to that. So pretty diverse set of research activities.
Yeah. So welcome to them.
Welcome.
The only other thing, and you can pull this up too if you feel like it, is we've got some great new blog posts up on the Human Nature blog.
So this is another test of how well I can use this website. Engagement, boom, look at that. Intuitive as heck. Here we go.
Not all of the blogs on the Human Nature blog are written by our Sustainability Leadership Fellows, but a lot of them are. And the 3 most recent ones are. So there's one by Hyun Park and Jenna Parker, who we actually had on the show a few weeks ago about orphaned elephants.
Right.
And then also one by Kaylee Summers. So they've got some really great topics. Give them a read. And that's all I've got for you for SoGES News.
Okay. I don't think I have any SoGES news either. But we do want to say thank you so much. We're a little over time, so thanks for sticking with us today. And we actually have another show next Friday. This is unprecedented in the history.
The long history
of Sustainability Happy Hour, where we're going to have back-to-back episodes. So next Friday, we actually are going to welcome Dr. Zach Labe, who just wrapped up his PhD in California and is now in Colorado, working at the Department of Atmospheric Sciences. And we're going to talk to him about the Arctic boreal warming, science communication, and probably a bunch of other stuff. So please tune in, same sustainability time, same Sustainability Happy Hour. But that's all I've got.
Awesome.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Have a good weekend. And
Thanks
we will
for watching,
see you
everyone.
Right back here. Thanks all your not millions, but maybe more or less, it's less, viewership. Okay. We'll see you next week. Bye.